Welcome to the special meeting of the Ojai Redevelopment, the Ojai City Council and Ojai Redevelopment Agency, successor agency. Special meeting of June the 10th. Roll call.
Councilmember Blatz?
Here.
Councilmember Clapp is not here at the moment. Councilmember Lara?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith? Here. Mayor Strobel?
Present. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Clark. We'll just go right into budget.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. At our last workshop, we were going through the department expenditures department by department, and we left off with the police department. So I'd like to turn it over to Captain Kenny to give you a brief overview of that.
Madam Mayor, members of council, in regards to your police services, as in my previous years here, there's really no changes. You're going to be getting the same level of service that you've been enjoying. That's 2 24-hour beat cars out there, 365 days a year. In order to provide that, that takes 9 deputies, 9 full-time deputies. You're also going to be paying for half of a detective position, half of my position, as well as 0.37% of the sheriff's service technician, which is offset through the COPS grant revenue, and also a 20-hour cadet. I'm not requesting any new positions or requesting that we cut any. There is the contract increase of 3.10%, which is done by calculated by the Sheriff's Business Office. And this year that was due to a $750 one-time payment to all classifications except the SST. There was an increase in the group insurance of $12 per day per pay period with various start dates, and as well as an increase in the deputy sheriff's retirement rate of approximately 5.35%, and an increase in the deputy sheriff's workers' comp rate of approximately 0.2%. So, if you have any questions.
I just
Not
have
too
one-
many numbers?
No, Madam Mayor, I just have one comment. I want to thank the chief and the sheriff's department. I think that you're doing a great job in providing us with our safety support in the city, so thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question just for my curiosity more than anything. I think you guys are doing an exceptional job too. I was just wondering, on the first page on 120, there's a salary and regular. What's the difference between that salary and then the Ventura County Sheriff Department contract on page 121?
That's for the dispatcher, Tina.
Oh, that's for Tina?
Tina,
Okay.
yeah.
And then, so
That's
the city employee. So that's actually that's just included in your report, but it's actually the city's employee.
She's a city employee, and then we pay, the sheriff's department pays through a credit, 50% of her position, we credit you back. So it's basically, you pay up front, and then we credit you back for 50% of her salary.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's actually, we're only
Yeah.
credited, we're only
Yeah,
paid.
when, on the monthly billing, we credit you back 50% of what she worked for that month.
Okay. All right, just had curiosity. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions on the police department, the next one is community development, and Kathleen Wold will walk you through that.
Good evening. So I'm kind of in the same position that, although I'm new here, things have kind of stayed the same from this fiscal year, to what's proposed in the budget. I think that you all know, and Rob gave you some information in a past council meeting or council report regarding the changes that have occurred in the community development department over time, which really is through 2010 to, I guess, 2013, where we actually went to a full-time director and a part-time assistant planner. And so proposed in the budget would be that we stay that exact same way, and we continue to use contract services for the building official and the building inspector and / code enforcement duties. And I really don't have anything else other than just of note that activity in the building department, the building division has really ticked up. We are seeing double the amount of inspections and also double the amount of code enforcement complaints. But, so there is a lot of activity and increased expenditures and some increased revenues coming in with permit fees. And I'm open to any questions. Nothing?
Council members have questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I do have a question of clarity. I noticed on page 127, there was, under the contract service vacation coverage, there were, on the adopted budget for 2013, 2014, there was nothing budgeted. But I guess on the revised budget, there was 65,700. Do you know why the difference, or?
You'll handle it? Okay, thank you, Susie.
I'm sorry, that's my error. If you turn to 128, the expenditures being posted to 333 account when it should have been 334 account. The original budget was the 72,800. If you look at page 128 at the top.
On the first item.
Yes. So we are moving that item to where the expenditures are.
And Susie, am I correct in saying that although we call it vacation coverage in terms of the name of the account, it's not actually vacation coverage, it's direct services? We used to budget for vacation coverage in that account, and we haven't changed the account name.
Right.
But when we went from having a full-time employee to having contract employees, we started charging the contract employees to that account, so that's why it's higher in the latter years.
Yeah, actually, the title of account is correct in the page 128 that says inspection and code enforcement.
Ah,
So anyway, we'll clear that out.
Okay.
Thank
No,
you.
appreciate it. And then also, for expenditures under the contract service plan check, just above there, is that related? Are those two items, so that's related, that just,
It's not related, it's just a different type of services. It's a plan check service. And that's the item will go up and down depending upon how much activities we have.
okay.
So this is just the estimated figure. And like she says, that we've been having a lot of activities, so it could be a little more at the end, and then revenue will be more, so that it will all cover.
That will equal out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council for staff?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next department is recreation. And the agent for McClary will be presenting that.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Steve McClary, Deputy City Manager. Well, after going through a pretty extensive reorganization that we implemented last fiscal year, I'm happy to say that we do not have any such radical plans for the Recreation Department for the coming fiscal year. We're continuing to operate and fine-tune and tweak the staffing model that we've been operating under for the past fiscal year. And we're not asking or recommending any changes in terms of the staffing or the organization of the department at this time. A couple things that I can just briefly point out to you about the Recreation Department budget. The 1501 section provides the funding for the support of the Recreation Commission. So that is what the expenditures in 1501 are for. And 1502 has the bulk of the department administration and operating costs. And then the distinction between that and 1503 is 1503 focuses on the programs and classes that are offered through the Recreation Department. So that is how that is broken out. In terms of revenue for fiscal year 14-15, and again, we try to budget very conservatively to keep our projections realistic and low. We're projecting a revenue of about $395,000 for fiscal year 14-15. That's slightly down from what we have projected for this year, only because since we are quite a way through this fiscal year, we can start counting some of those chickens as opposed to fiscal year 14-15, where we don't want to start counting any of those eggs that have not yet hatched. So that is the difference in the reduction in the revenue, although we feel pretty confident that we'll meet or exceed the revenue that we anticipate to see for fiscal year 13-14. The subsidy from the general fund remains at a constant of $371,000. That is the money that we receive from the general fund to pay for the operations of the department. That is not made up for by the revenues that we have received. Our revenues have been on the upward tick, which is nice. We took in, I don't have the number in front of me, but I think we came in with about, what did we come up with in the last fiscal year for revenue? Soft, please, do you remember off the top of your head? Thank you. So 395, so we think we're going to be able to exceed that for this fiscal year. And as we said, we're keeping it conservative for the 14-15 projection. Any money that we do not spend in our budget, we're able to have the ability to put that aside in a capital improvement fund. Last year, we were able to transfer, I have the page, about 42,000 in the previous fiscal year. Excuse me, no, that number was about 50. We're expecting to transfer out about 42,000 in fiscal year from this fiscal year. And then if everything holds for our projections for 14-15, we would still be in the black by about $26,000, which again would be money that we could put aside into capital improvement fund for continuing improvements to the recreation center facilities. That is my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Thank you. Steve, or maybe Sophocles, I noticed the budget for aquatics is $6,480. Is that just the cost of the same hours, or have we been able to increase the hours for the program?
I'll ask Mr. Katsas to come up and help
Okay.
with that answer. He could give a better answer than I.
That number's probably needs to be a bit higher. Oh, Sophocles Katsas, Recreation Manager. Of course, we have our lifeguarding staff out there, and then there are other training expenses. So, I'm sorry, the question.
Well, I didn't know if we had an increase in hours. Are we still using Villanova Pool? The contract is basically the same?
Yes,
Okay,
it is.
and what are
yes.
the hours that our public will be able to swim?
Okay, the public swim hours are from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for lap swim, and then in the afternoon from 11:30 to 3 o'clock. And that's Monday through Thursday and Saturday.
That's excellent. That's the hottest part of the day.
Yes.
Thank
yeah.
you so much.
Yeah, and that's a 6-week program, and that program will begin this coming Monday, June
Excellent.
16th. Yes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Laura?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Under the salaries on 134, is that mainly your portion in participation through the commission, or is that also the staff member that videotapes the meeting?
It's mainly time for myself and occasionally Mr. Katsas to prepare for the Park and Recreation Commission meetings.
Okay, perfect.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Clark?
Thank you. The next department up is Public Works, which will also be followed by the Capital Improvement Fund, and Mr. Grant will be walking us through that.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I guess, in general, I would say Public Works, I think it's always an opportunity. I think of that lead page we have to kind of remind us, or remind me, or maybe brag a bit, of some of the things we're working on. And one is all the various maintenance projects our division is handling between street maintenance, the storm drains, the crack sealing of the roads and the road maintenance, potholes and so on, as well as the facilities, the City Hall, and the facilities at the Y, the Libby Bowl, the Boyd Center, the Martin Gym, and Libby Park, the various parks, Skateboard Park, Rotary Park, Cliff Vista, and so on. So the crews always at that. We do some of the maintenance at the police department as well as the museum we've been working on pretty heavily in the past year. That effort is pretty well over. And the CIP and the capital improvement plan, I'll mention a couple projects we have scheduled for next year with them. And then the transportation department, running the trolley, and we have approximately 14 part-time drivers. That works cost effectively for the city, I should say. And we coordinate with Gold Coast Transit. And there is quite a ream of regulations that go along with meeting the FTA, the Federal Transit Authority's requirements. They've got all kinds of drug and alcohol programs, as well as inspections on the equipment and record keeping, as well as Title VI and some other issues. I think we have Title VI on the council's agenda tonight, so there's quite a bit going on there. The assessment districts are also part of our group, and the 2 lighting districts, there's a big change there, and that is primarily we're able to eliminate some of the expenses in those districts, so we now have a balanced budget for the first time in a long time. We've always been in a deficit, and it's accumulated somewhat, so we're looking at negating that deficit, taking a look at that, ways to eliminate it, but primarily, I should say that the budget is balanced for the lighting district, so that's a big change from the past. The Plaza Maintenance Assessment District is, we had the 5-year increase that was approved about a year and a half ago or so, and that has been very helpful. So we're seeing 5% per year increase. We're clicking through those. We're in the second year of that 5% increase. So we're seeing the revenues come up. We just went through as a commitment that was part of that increase was to do all sorts of improvements throughout the plaza. So we've pretty well completed that. We're doing a little touch-up to have it complete this fiscal year, but all those improvements are complete. So we should see expenses drop significantly in the plaza as revenues come up, and I think we'll see a balanced budget next year. This year, I think we're actually already balanced this year. We've got a little surplus in that assessment district. We also handle the project management and engineering services. A couple of programs are the FEMA program. We have quite a few changes going on. We've got the East Valley Alluvial Plain Study. It was the one that created the new flood maps for the East Valley over off the San Antonio Creek. So that was primarily affecting the county. They pushed for that study to be done because it pulled a lot of their people out of the floodplain. Unfortunately, it kicked a few of our people into the floodplain. So I think it is a more accurate study, and it probably reflects the real conditions out there, but it knocks nearly 30 people within the city or parcels into the floodplain. So we've got some outreach meetings being planned next month for that, and we'll have some expenses related to the outreach and responding to residents' concerns about that, how they get flood insurance, and ways to we're going to make sure we have outreach that they get their insurance before the maps become effective, because you grandfather into the old rates, which are much less than the new rates that are starting to kick up. So there's a FEMA. There's also on the schedule, but it keeps getting delayed, as FEMA's planning new flood maps for the rest of the river on down, as well as the Ventura River. But those have been delayed throughout the country related to these issues with the levees, the certifying levees properly. And they keep saying a year or two out, and it seems they've been saying that for 4 or 5 years. So I don't think anybody's in a hurry to see those new maps, because sometimes it's bad news. The AB 939 part, the solid waste, we have a franchise agreement. We just extended for 6 months through December 31st. And there was a few good concessions from Ojai Harrison on that, where we will not be paying for refuse disposal anymore. So that saves pretty good money within our department, a good $12,000 per year. And so we, I think we're looking at trying to think of improved street sweeping, reduced refuse disposal costs. We're also looking at a program where they pick up all the trash throughout the city at the parks and down at the plaza and a few other places, which will help free up our crew for other efforts. Let's see, we also had the TMDL as part of the MPDS program, the total maximum daily limit regulation, which has already gone into effect. And the first phase is a corrective monitoring program. So we actually we have a deadline coming up here in a few months where we have to have a monitoring program complete. So working with the other regulated agencies to complete that monitoring program. Once that's complete, we have 1 to 10 years to phase in all the implementation. So we're going to see cost of the MPDS increase because of this implementation of this program. The TMDL was for algae and nutrients in the rivers, so it'll be going after things like horse manure or animal manure, and I guess on a more local basis, nutrients from fertilizers and dog do in the parks and so on like that. So we'll have a multifaceted program to try to decrease that. We might even have to have cleanup mechanisms that remove nutrients in the storm drain system. Those are very expensive, and that's kind of a last measure that we might have to get to. Let me see, there was the coordination with community development as our department, myself, a city engineer, and with a consultant we use, we review the community development projects. So we've seen a major uptick that I think Kathleen just mentioned, that we're seeing almost double the number of projects they had from last year. So we're having a lot more work there. And I guess for the IT department, I think in the process of upgrading all of the internet, the website that we have for the city is being upgraded, as well as some of the system in the back that runs the PEG program, the television program. And we're coordinating some with the police department on security cameras and so on, and monitoring of those. And as a part of the grant management, our department applies for quite a few of these public works related grants, of course, and that takes quite a bit of contract management and application effort to try to get these things in. And encroachment permits, I think that'll be handled when we review the schedule of fees. We're proposing some change fees for encroachment permits. And the Nordoff Cemetery, we had proposed in this year's budget a contract to develop a master plan. And that is, we've got proposals underway right now, and we're planning to come back to the council at the next meeting for a contract to develop that master plan and start moving forward on some other revenue ideas inside the cemetery, for instance, the niche walls, and trying to have a long-term plan to try to recover some of the finances there. The master plan is mostly about the layout and where the niche walls would go and the landscaping, and try to keep the park in a nice looking, kind of aesthetically to improve the park, I should say, the cemetery, and with the idea being low maintenance, low cost, but we'll generate revenues with these niche walls. So that's being developed at this time. And then for fleet maintenance, we have the city's trolleys, vans, trucks, and lighter equipment, the loader and the backhoe and so on that we maintain as well. So I think that the major, I guess I didn't mention the trees also, that we've had a lot more emphasis on the trees. We've been working with the tree committee, coordinating much better over the past couple of years that I've been here, and we're just seeing the benefit of, instead of reacting to the tree issues that happen out there, we're trying to get ahead of them. So we're trying to get out there with an arborist and look for these trees that are stressed and having difficulty and need trimming and pruning, and do the work ahead of time instead of waiting for the limb to go. Still tough to get ahead of it. It's sometimes hard to tell when those limbs go in this hot weather. They just get loaded up with weight and they drop a major limb. Hard to see it sometimes, but we're going to be more proactive, so we'll see costs in the tree area go up, a lot of it for consulting, working with arborists to try to make sure we get on top of these reports and work more closely with the tree committee on an ongoing basis. And I should mention overall, we did have one retirement in Public Works, and we have one person on long-term injury leave. So those two positions are where we've focused more effort on. For instance, we have a contract now for custodial work. All the restrooms are being cleaned by custodial work in the morning, so that frees up a bit of our crew. And we're also, a little bit of that money goes over to the tree work as well. And we've got room for temporary labor, so we can hire a group of temp laborers, for instance, for the fire clearing that's going on right now. We can go out and hit that pretty hard, and then we can back off and have people come and go as we need for the various projects that we come up with to keep working through. So I think that's it, if there's any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Grant from council?
Yeah.
I have one real quick question. First of all, I'm really impressed with, the city's really starting to see the results of all your efforts, and I would like to thank you for that. Do you happen to have any idea what the average cost is for one of those treatment systems in a storm drain?
Well, the system, right now, we've already implemented quite a bit of the trash catches. So it's a, inside of the catch basin, you install a trash catch, and it's kind of a screen. And those are approximately, let me think about the number of that. I think they were $2,000 each, roughly. Very
How many
roughly.
storm drains do we have?
I'd have to say off the cuff. This
Yeah,
is
that's
a
fine,
guess.
off the
I'd
cuff.
say 50 or so.
50 or so storm drains.
Yeah,
That's
but
all in
really,
the city.
the
That's
MPDS
interesting.
requires that we put in the trash catches in the heavy use areas in the downtown
Yeah,
area.
that makes sense, and lower.
Yeah, not in the more rural.
And so
spots.
these treatment systems, I'm assuming, would be more expensive.
And that's really down the road. That's an extreme
Yeah.
level. We really have to implement this TMDL step by
Right.
step to do pick all the easy fruit up front. And
Right.
That's
What-
like
do you
a
have
severe level down the road.
Do you have any idea what they cost?
It really depends on the flow you put them through. They're really
Uh-huh.
little wastewater plants, so
Uh-huh.
they can go on the real low side for $10,000 to $20,000,
Uh-huh.
real low, and then you can go through the roof, hundreds of thousands of dollars easily, if not millions. I mean, if you want to go
Right.
big scale, you can.
Right.
Go, yeah.
It depends on how bad your situation is.
And how much flow you want to put through it.
And how much
Mostly
flow.
flow, right?
Okay. All right, thanks.
Councilmember Laurel?
Yes. Could you explain, is there any difference between, I see there's a couple contract service, landscape maintenance on different areas of your budget, like on 148, there's one. And there's also another one on page, or 150, and one on page 151. Are those under one company, or different areas, or like?
Right. I think the major difference you're seeing there is, for instance, 147, which is the same as pages 148, is the parks. So we separate and detail out that budget for a separate item. And so we might have landscape contract services, and that would be for various repairs. And I think that category is sometimes, we did fence repairs and so on, you'll see cost allocated to that. And so fence repairs, sod repairs, also supplies and services sometimes are put in there. I think the supplies, we've got a separate item on as well. The other page that you're just looking at would take it over to general maintenance, which is the city facilities. That'd be more like the museum, city hall, and the general facilities, where the public works facilities in the police department. The other department we have is on the streets, we also have some contracts for landscape servicing, tree pruning and so on. And we have a separate category into that also, which is for Caltrans, because they reimburse us. So that'd be kind of 5 different categories of landscape contract services.
So do we perform the work, or does someone else?
This would be whenever we hire it out. This is contract.
This is contract service, okay. And then same thing with engineer, I see a difference on page 151 and then on page 146. Just, what are those?
151, I'm sorry, what was the other page?
151 and 146?
146. And I think that's the same idea, that we have the engineering split between different categories. 146, let me see, that was,
146, right.
I think there's some assistance for general administration. We're doing long-term capital improvement planning and so on. We might have some general concept plans developed by a CAD person, so we'll get help from an engineering firm. We don't have any technicians within our department. We don't really have any technical people besides myself, and maybe James is an IT guy in our department. So we hire any assistance we need for doing engineering or surveying. So go to administration as a general concept long-term, but generally things like street, you'll see the most cost on, because we have encroachment permits that are monitored for quality and reviewed to make sure the encroachment permits and other work are appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith, did you have a question? Okay. Any additional questions on this part from Mr. Grant?
So
So we'll
we can-
move to capital improvements.
Capital improvement program, it's in the budget book at the very back, and yeah, and there's a handout, that's right, with an update, and I should mention that as too. So I think the easiest one to look at, if anybody wants to follow along, is the summary. It's got the 8.5 by 11 pages. The 11 by 17s are a detailed page, and those break it out with city funds versus other funds, grants, and other monies that we receive, other special funds that are allocated. So I was going to run through the summary page. So under, yeah, everybody with me on that? Yeah. So fiscal year 14 and 15, the first area is road overlay and reconstruction. And we'd already decided on these streets, even though we're in the process of wrapping up a pavement management system, which will help us prioritize the remaining streets. But we'd already promised these streets, so we decided to move ahead with it. I think there's quite a few folks that were in the Golden West tract, as well as a few others that really want to see these streets happen. And when we mentioned that a year or so ago, they haven't forgotten, let's put it that way. So, yeah. So we have $574,000 allocated for those overlays. We're looking at, on Golden West, trying to do some complete streets work on those bigger streets, maybe adding some medians in the street and tree pockets on the side, so that'll increase the cost a little bit on that, but I think we've got room within that budget. We are allocating AB 939 money for the rubberized AC. All this asphalt that's going down right now throughout the city has got a pretty good proportion of rubber in it, so we're allowed to use the AB 939 fund for that. It's considered promoting recycling, so you're allowed to use the money for that. And big benefit being it's very flexible, it lasts a lot longer than regular asphalt, and it's a lot quieter. You'll notice when you drive on that rubber content. It also makes it very gummy, so it sticks to everything in sight until it cures, which is kind of an unfortunate side of it. So we've got it. It can get stuck on dump trucks and other equipment, and they try their best, but occasionally it gets on the roads. You'll see that street sweeper really going crazy out there trying to keep all that cleaned up. Next would be the parks. We've got some of the AB 939 money being allocated to purchase trash cans, benches, and picnic tables throughout the city. We actually have been going through, there's so many variations out there, and we're trying to get the best quality. We've been doing a lot of research on it. So we have not purchased the $50,000 we'd allocated this year. And but the money does not go away. And in fact, we had a clarification in the AB 939 expenditures that for trash we don't need to buy recycled cans made out of recycled plastic. We can use anything because it's directly trash and recycling related. Whereas things like picnic tables and benches, you have to buy them out of recycled products. They have to be made out of recycled products. The fountain area, the Libby fountain area, this is all in the Libby Park in the park section. There's a fountain area trip hazard. There's all around the fountain area. We cleaned everything up nicely there, I think, except there's 2x4s that were placed between all the segments of concrete out there, and some of those have rotted away, and they're kind of a trip hazard, so we've planned to replace those this year. We've got a new playground scheduled over the next 2 fiscal years. I think it'll take a while to decide on the playground and get agreement on that with the Parks and Recreation Commission and to the council. But we're working in conjunction with the Rotary Club that plans to put in a playground shade, and I think they're not that far along with their donations, so they're not really ready to go. So we're trying to stay ahead of them, and we seem to be staying there. On the next page, there's a minor one was the Libby Bowl cyclone lights. They're very high maintenance, and we're switching to LED lights in there, which is higher efficiency, lower maintenance. The multi-purpose building has got some roof issues. The Sarzati Park, we've got a major capital improvement planned over the next year and a half, and that's the picnic area. We plan to put those large canopies over the picnic areas. So we did get the grant from CDBG, and we're also received a grant from the Ojai Civic Association in combination with the Fund 31 monies. That'll be 1/3 each. We'll pay for, there's AB 939 money in there as well for recycled aluminums, posts and columns and roofing. So that's a major project. There'll be 2 large structures out there. It's probably one of the bigger projects for next year outside of road resurfacing. And that'll include a trash enclosure out in the parking lot at Sarzati to get that trash bin looking a little better. Field 1 has some really old wooden poles we plan to replace, and Ojai Civic Association has agreed to split cost on that as well, generously. The outdoor basketball court, I think, is not quite a done deal. I think we're talking about some master plan efforts and so on, possibly. That's in the Parks and Rec Commission Department right now. There's a few sheds out there we're going to fix up. We're talking about Daly Park, putting a sign out there. The next page is complete street projects that we're talking about. We received a grant for traffic safety analysis, and we've just completed that, and they've are working on a report for us right now for that, so actually we're ahead of schedule on that. But that was a grant. There's no expenditures on our side. There is the Matilaha and Aliso pedestrian crossings are nearly done with the paving. We'll wrap that up in the next month. And the submittal for Whispering Oaks and Kenyatta has gone to Caltrans, so we're waiting on the response on those. But once they are approved, we actually have to look at funding for that, which we're looking at the next TDA cycle for that if they're approved. There's the bike trail crossing rework plan is complete, and we're just trying to get bids on that. Grand Avenue, we just did receive the grant on that. That was a TDA grant where they awarded $60,000 to match our $60,000, so that'll realign Grand as it comes into Signal, that offset that occurs up there, and improve the safety for bicyclists coming through that area as well as pedestrians. And that'll extend the bike lanes of some sort down Grand all the way, as well as that multi-use trail on the south side. And we have sidewalk infills we're looking at in certain places around the city. For instance, next to the bike trail, there's a few segments on Blanche and Signal and Ventura Street where we're going to have sidewalk gaps infilled. We've just completed quite a few of these infills up on Aliso Street as part of the paving. We've got an ADA implementation plan. We've got some trip hazard repairs and so on. There's a light planned in front of the Jersey Mike's at that pedestrian crossing. We've had concerns about the people can't see pedestrians well enough there, so we're looking at an overhead light as well as installing an RRFB there, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons like we have at the library to help improve the people noticing pedestrians there. We have a plan for Drown Street traffic calming that we're going to try a pilot program out there for traffic calming. And then we have funding for a bike pedestrian master plan. That was money that was actually found in the TDA previous allocations of budget that were never spent. So we're planning that project as well. We've got parking lots at the farmers market, the north and south farmers market lots, as well as the lower Libby, which are planned to be reworked. Facilities, we plan to repaint. That's where I mentioned the museum. We've completed most of the work there, but we still have not done the exterior painting of the trim. We wanted to wait and make sure we finished all the roof work first, because some of that, and even the termite work that was just done, replaced a lot of the rotten wood. So we're going to have new roofs on the front chapel as well as the curator area in the back behind the chapel. And that was a split with the Ojai Civic Association and a donor at the museum I can't think of. That was it was a three-way split on that. And
I think that was the Wilsons.
that sounds right. Okay. So as soon as, the roof work's done, we'll repaint all the exterior trim as well. And then the city hall has one roof area that was not done years ago that still has some issues. And at the Public Works yard, we're looking at some minor improvements out there, a trash enclosure for the lower yard over the big trash bins. So it's an MPDS regulation we should have taken care of, as well as a wash down pad. When we wash equipment, we should be going into a containment area and cleaning that up. So under drainage, we have a couple of minor items just on Bryant Street. There's an area which doesn't drain well that we're going to put into a catch basin. And we have a, at the east end of the arcade, there's an area that pools up near the crosswalk that we're looking at trying to drain properly. And I think finally would be under transit, a very minor item. There's a light for the Rose Garden stop, which is across from the Y. And some of the transit users there complain that it's not well lit up, so we're looking at lighting that. And so all in all, it's $1.56 million, so pretty substantial. And the split on that is about $844,000 out of Fund 31 city money direct, and then about $720,000 out of other money, which is primarily grants and other funding or dedicated funds that weren't used from previous. So thanks for bearing through that, and be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Grant, I have a quick question. You may have addressed it, and it may be in here, but regarding crosswalks? I know you mentioned the one at Jersey Mike's. What about the one at Exotic Thai and AJ? Is that correct?
At Park Road there, right? Yeah, uh-huh. That, Caltrans just was sued over ADA regulations, and they lost, it's like a 5-year settlement, something like $30 million a year they have to do an improvement. So I was trying to get them to handle that. And, but I remember it's a good question. I thought we almost we were debating whether or not, because they're very difficult to get any information from. So I know we were considering maybe just taking that on ourselves. In fact, I'm sorry, here it is. Thank you for mentioning that. Under ADA, on page 3, we did put it in the budget for this year.
Okay.
So I guess I skimmed over that when I mentioned, so we have 5,000 allocated. So we'd obviously prefer they do it, but I don't know if I'm going to give an answer. It seems like, we almost did the one at the hospital ourselves, and we'd requested they would do it, and they finally kicked in. They did themselves. The one.
Well, that one, I think, perhaps because it's further out of downtown, people aren't as aware, or they're not as watchful for that crosswalk.
Mm-hmm. So it's in the
That's
budget.
really true, and there's 2 restaurants there.
I had a question, but Greg, do we know what's under this hideous carpet? Is this just concrete or what?
Or is it a
I
wood
believe
floor?
it's actually a hardwood floor, but I think it's because of the age. There's a lot of segments of it that might have been removed and replaced with various things like plywood and things. But is the idea to a consideration? You mean to pull it and
Well,
maybe
it would be except for the noise level it would cause, but I mean, if there is mostly hardwood, it would fit the building.
it might sound a little different here, but it would certainly be something when we budget replacement of the carpet in here. We could try to pull it and get a good look at it before we commit to the recarpeting, maybe during a period when the council's out of
I mean,
a
there's
session.
nothing wrong with this turquoise industrial carpet.
It's
But
hideous.
it's a vast improvement over the orange.
Oh, we used to have orange, oh my God, thank you.
Councilmember Laurel?
Madam Mayor. I saw you have budgeted on, under your complete street on page, I think, 3 of 5. The pedestrian crosswalk, is that all the crosswalks on Ojai Ave and Ventura Street, Montgomery, Cañada, Park, and Blanche?
Yes, really, we put the these are the ones that the complete streets in our discussions felt were the higher concern level. And so we're looking at those. We've also submitted this initial plan to the for Whispering Oaks Crosswalk and Cañada. That includes curb extensions as well as the RRFB. And depending on if they agree to things like curb extensions, then that's preferable, but it'll cost more money. And we're looking at a few different innovative approaches to keep the cost low, but it could easily spend a lot more money per. So we're really saying these are the priority crossings, and the priorities jumped around a little bit in the complete streets, but these are it'd be depending how much money it costs per, we'll hit one or more of these.
What, is that still different? Is that different money than it is for the Montgomery and Ojai pedestrian crossing? Because under there, it's 15,000 for next year. That's what's budgeted on that crosswalk, right?
The one that says light at Montgomery Ojai pedestrian crossing?
Yeah, light M.
And that was for an overhead light only, not for the rapid flashing beacons.
Okay. And that all depends also on Caltrans.
That one's a little more caught up in SCE, which is a notch below Caltrans and the amount of time it takes to work things out with them.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Clout, I'll get it here.
Page 3, up at the Grand Avenue Bike Intersection Improvement, you talk about the realignment of the road. I would love to see the plan for that. It would be really interesting to see how that's going to be done, because it's a very wide stretch of road, and I'm curious how that's going to be handled aesthetically, as well as how you're going to accomplish your goal of improving safety. So it'd be really nice to see
We have
that.
a pretty tight budget to work on there, but it's our full intention to develop a concept first to make sure we refine that and do public outreach. I know there's some concern in the community, that neighborhood, about what that's going to look like and how it'll affect traffic. So do that full outreach. I mean, our routine we've actually gotten into now is complete streets, make sure everybody's good there, do the public outreach, then come back to planning, and then come to city council.
Good.
Yeah, so.
Because sometimes when people talk about realigning roads, it can be, I guess if Caltransit's doing it, it would be beautiful. And then also the sidewalk project as well. Is that on the south portion of Grand that you're talking about, extending sidewalks?
Yes, that money is allocated really for sidewalk infill and previous TDA projects. So we had the money available for infill, and we're seeing if we can allocate some of that money to the Grand Avenue signal intersection. But
I'm a little confused about that, because my understanding in long ago, the plan for that part of Grand was it was supposed to be for bridle trail. It was supposed to not be cement. Sidewalks.
I'm sorry, I was getting-
It was supposed to be bridle trail.
oh, now the south side is planned to be not a sidewalk, but it's going to be a multi-use trail, so it'll be an unpaved trail.
Oh, excellent.
So it's supposed to be for younger people on bicycles as well as horses. And then
Good.
the gun-ho folks would be out on the street on the bike lane.
Right, okay, excellent, because that's a real nice, nice, I don't know, how do you put it?
Right, a nice trail, I guess you call it.
Yeah, it's a
And
nice trail.
And it's got a few sidewalks that probably don't belong there, just a few infill sidewalks, which,
Is there a possibility of removing those? Oh,
absolutely.
excellent, okay. And then one more question, because I know we're running low on time. The new playground, is there going to be any consideration about the placement where it's going to be? Is it going to go back in the same place, or are there
I think
any?
that's wide open. I think that, Steve and Sophocles and I are all working with the Parks and Rec Commission, trying to find equipment that we can propose, and then there'll be discussion about it.
It's hopefully better looking and maybe placement maybe a little bit better or something?
In general, I think the area, the curb that defines that area was the target, but so it would increase cost to try and move out that curb and so on, but there's room
Oh,
for that.
that's right, it isn't a curb now.
It's got a curb, and it holds in that
That's right,
engineered
it does.
wood fiber
Okay.
that's inside.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Blatz?
I just had a quick question. Looking through the capital improvements under City Hall, the only thing I see this year has to do with the roof. So I just wanted to be clear that there's no money allocated anywhere, allocated in here for new lighting in the council chambers. Is that correct?
That's only because we are underway right now. We've actually,
There is a change.
I think we already exchanged the bulbs. I think James Hahn has already been on that. So the bulbs have been changed out. It turns out that these fixture covers are very hard to find, so we're having them custom made at a reasonable price, and they will be shipped out. So I think for the next meeting, you'll have those in place, but right now the bulbs have already been changed. I think that's right. So if you notice it, sounds good.
And I can tell the difference, thank you.
It is better.
I think the covers will make quite a change too. You can see these are pretty aged.
These are, how old are these, from the 70s? 60s?
Probably the 60s.
I'm not going to guess.
Did
That's all
you?
I have. They're old, yeah.
But you're right, the light is not hurting my eyes, so that is better.
Okay.
And if any
Thanks,
neon
James Hahn,
bulbs.
for that, yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith, did you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. And I have one. We're investing a lot in our streets. Are we doing a better job of coordinating with our utility companies as far as, I have a real concern that we're going to put a lot of expense into the improvement and repairs of our streets, and then have the utilities companies come along behind us and cut them up. So if we do not have a clear understanding with them at this point, I'd like to make sure that we either obtain that understanding through chatting with them over because they still have to get an encroachment permit, or maybe not an encroachment.
That's right.
Is it an encroachment? And I think they get an annual citywide or something like that. So.
And then a blanket for each time they dig, yeah.
So I'm not sure what time of the year they apply for those, but the next time they apply, I'd like to make sure we get a real good conversation about, we're putting a lot of our funds into our streets, and any repair work you do, we want the street brought back to the condition of the way you found it, or better.
Appreciate that. And we have coordinated with them, and Of course, the biggest concern is water. You got pressurized water in an old system, and for other issues I'm sure everybody's aware of, but that is the major damage to the roads. Gas breaks don't cause a lot of damage, or think of gas or even sewer under gravity systems, that pressurized water system, which is the biggest concern. So they did complete some capital improvement projects, aware of where we're going, and so they were good. The gas company also completed one ahead of this. For instance, over on Bristol Street, they completed their project, and so did OVSD. So we have some coordination on that, and then additionally, we have really increased the encroachment permit standards. You know, it used to be you were allowed to put soil backfill. Now we're requiring slurry backfill on all trench work. And we're also requiring what's called a T-section at the top. When you cut a trench, we require that they grind out an extra foot to the side so it gets rid of that sharp crease you see in all the trenches out there, so it'll gap over that. So those are big improvements. Of course, we have a lot of trenches that have been done over the past, 60, 80 years or so. So a lot of those, we're not going to fix all those. But, yeah.
I'd like to see us put a stop to what I consider substandard work now. I mean, at some point, we put a stop to it, and this is a good time.
And we initiated that last year, so and we're actually increasing even the inspection on that beyond that as well, as part of the fee increase to cover that cost.
And I thought last year you had tightened up the standards for the encroachment permits. Did anyone else have any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clark?
Thank you. That concludes what we had on the agenda for the workshop. We do have a public hearing on the budget under your regular agenda, and you could take public input then, or if you want to take public input for the next 7.5 minutes, you can do that.
Well, I see someone from the museum out there, and I noticed we have Deborah from the Green Coalition, and that's probably Cynthia sitting beside her. I know that we received something from Cynthia Greer. I don't know if all the council members received it. I don't know.
I did.
You did? I did, and I read it, but not, so I'm not sure how to handle that.
Well, I did invite them to come to the public hearing and to walk you through it. Since you just got it, I don't think we're expecting any decision today, but it would be good for reference for when you do adopt the budget to hear what they're proposing.
All right, now, our public hearing on the budget isn't our regular meeting?
It's in the regular meeting, yes.
So you want to wait till the regular meeting? We have about 7 minutes.
Could quit early.
Mike, what if Cynthia addresses what area of the budget she would be talking about as far as their request is?
Okay. Why don't you do that?
Thank you all for giving me this time. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a small business owner here in the city of Ojai, and I'm on the board of the Green Coalition. I'm actually on the resource committee, and that's why I took it upon myself to come to you with this request. We actually are gearing up for a new program, although we've been supporting the city since 2008 with a lot of recycling programs and other outreach programs that in many cities it's actually included as part of their budget. I threw out a big, bold number here because it's in our budget to raise that much in funding in terms of grants and business memberships. And we're just asking for some sort of a matching fund to go along with this. Pardon me?
Do we have the microphone on?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, I should just lean forward. We're actually gearing up to start what we call a Local Matters campaign, and it would include supporting the city with a lot of outreach on regulations and things that are being passed, as well as a green business program. One of the things that I've found a lot in my communicating with other business owners and just observing around town is that recycling laws aren't really being followed here, as well as many other things. So that's one of the things we want to support. I kind of see what we're looking for probably coming partly out of Public Works or maybe partly coming out of community development. And I kind of leave it to you all to kind of see where that feels like a good fit. I understand there is some funding from Harrison, around recycling and knowing that we're not really totally in compliance with where we're supposed to be in terms of percentage of recycling that's happening here. That could be a big area that we could help to address. So Rob, can I ask you, were you able to forward budgets and all that on to the council, or?
I did forward it by email. I don't know if they've
Okay.
had a chance to look at it, though.
Okay, because that's kind of explains the whole Local Matters campaign. It's broken down, the budget's pretty well broken down there, but we are open to, answering any other questions that you have once you do get a chance to look at that.
I will make one comment. I did go over the information I received, not the budget. I didn't get haven't looked at the budget. But I think it would be a good idea if you came in and talked with the city manager.
Sure.
Because I don't believe we are that out of compliance. We have put a tremendous amount of work as far as the city council and the city. And so rather than just saying we're out of compliance or that there's money here and there's money here, I'd rather you come in and talk to our city manager, because we have done a great deal. And we
Yes.
have supported many of the ideals of the Green Coalition. So I think that's what I would say. I'd like to see you talk to our city manager so that you see where we're already
Sure.
putting funds.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm in total agreement with that. I do believe the city has made some great strides. And I wasn't actually referring to the city not being in compliance. I was referring to the businesses. Yeah, so, I just see that even in the building where I lease space, where nothing's being recycled. It's all going into a big dumpster. So those are that's actually what I was referring to. But yes, I'd be happy to do that, and maybe we can schedule time outside of this. But thank you again for your time. Any other questions?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Go ahead and stay there.
Sure.
I have read that Ojai is not the highest on the list of compliance. What percentage are we at, and what percentage are we supposed to be at?
I don't have those exact statistics. This, again,
Yeah.
it was just general observation. When I see regularly, most like the coffee shops, the businesses.
Well, one thing real quickly with dumpsters, because I have a commercial dumpster, and with commercial dumpsters, you commingle, and the way that's handled is each individual business is supposed to put the non-recyclables in a garbage bag and the recyclables loose in the dumpster. So that may be what Harrison's doing as well, but maybe it's like you're talking about, it's a lack of education on the part
Right.
of these other businesses not knowing that commingling's okay, but they're supposed to separate out the non-recyclable trash when they do commingle.
And-
So
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of put that
Right.
forward. That might be what's going on, and I'm looking forward to reading what you have to say.
From what I understand, there's a specific dumpster that has to be used for that too.
Yeah,
and that's where some of the confusion
I'm in
is.
Ventura where I do this in a
Yeah.
commercial zone, so it might be different, up here, but that speaks to the importance of education. So I'm going to read this and see what you have
Okay.
to say.
Great.
Thanks.
Any other questions from council?
Madam Mayor, I just want to say that I didn't receive that email, I think. I was, and so it would be great to see what the proposal is or the information.
Yeah,
And then also, I think I would definitely not only encourage Cynthia to sit down with Rob, but also, I don't know if we could have some type of presentation or what the next step would be, or
I think probably the best thing for me to do is to spend some time with them and develop information similar to what we've done in the past with the museum. And then I can get a few more years' worth of financial information and do a little bit of analysis for you, and then put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
great. Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Thank you.
Great, great.
Thank you,
very
Cynthia.
much.
All right, we're at 7 o'clock, so I think we're going to cut it off here. And I'm going to adjourn the special meeting of the Ojai City Council.